We're going to have the class on the Mahayana Uttaratantra Shastra that is composed by Arya Maitreya. And throughout our upcoming Dharma assembly, we won't have any Dharma classes. And we will resume our classes around the 20th. Not sure when yet. Maybe 21st. Sutra of Great Liberation. And then maybe 22nd, we'll have the class on Mahayana Uttaratantra Shastra again. So about 21st or the 22nd of July, we'll resume our classes. Between now and then, we have an upcoming Dharma assembly, and this is really a Dharma assembly that is only held over here. This time, though, the Dharma assembly is still going to be a little bit different. It is still going to be restricted to the inside of our monastery as well as institute. But there are restrictions. For example, no videos, no photos, no announcements, no propagation of or no advertisements towards such kind of Dharma assembly at all. One should not post in their social media, and those are requested by the authorities and not me, not myself. So since this is really a Dharma assembly that is very much limited to the members over here, we're going to have this Dharma assembly tomorrow, so between 7 to 9, 10 to 12, 2 to 4, and then 5 to 7, that's the fourth session. It is of the four session practices will we engage in. I'm looking at people signing the time to me right now through their gestures. I believe people staying here, you are quite aware of the preciousness of this opportunity of having the Dharma assembly. And you will cherish the opportunity by engaging those practices accordingly as well. According to Phuntsok Rinpoche's tradition, he set forth 4 Dharma assemblies. The first one is the magnetizing Dharma assembly that usually would last for 2 weeks, where we would engage in the chanting of magnetizing sadhana, and then the Dharma assembly of also practice in confession, and then tomorrow we're going to have the Dharma assembly that celebrates the turning of the Dharma wheel of the Buddha. Especially tomorrow would be the first day that the Buddha turned the Dharma wheel, that commemorates that day, the 14th of July. And then there's the descending from celestial realm day. We will also have a Dharma assembly, and we used to do that too. On that particular day, we have the Dharma assembly too. And throughout those Dharma assemblies, I really encourage all of you not to travel about, because nowadays we have already entered into the rainy season, and lots of rain causes landsliding and various dangerous factors. So if you don't have to travel about, then I strongly encourage you not to. And people may ask me, well, if we can travel about, then why are you traveling around? I have to. That is the reason. And if I were to tell you the reasons behind my my travels and my trips to the other places during this time, you will get very touched by that aspiration, by that the reason of traveling too. So I better not reveal it. This month is of a very supreme opportunity for you to engage in practice. Since all of you are already here and you have the opportunity to engage in the Dharma assembly with the large Sangha that we have over here, the monastics, it is of great benefit to all of you in terms of merit. We only practice 8 hours a day that are divided into 4 sessions, and within 1 day, after each sessions of practice, we have 1 hour to 2 hours of time to relax and have your meals. So I think it's really not that difficult to engage in all 4 sessions throughout each day of the Dharma assembly. I really hope that people would attend the class, the Dharma assemblies on time. Don't hang out with the others on the outside, even when the Sambara started, the chanting started. In fact, according to the great masters, it is said that it would be the best to perfectly engage in the practices of the 4 sessions. If you were to engage in any services to help the Sangha or to serve the Sangha, then maybe you have some valid reasons not to engage in all 4 sessions. For that reason, you can engage in, for example, at least 2 sessions a day. But for those of you with time and with the opportunity, I strongly encourage you to participate in all of the 4 sessions each day, because just simply contemplate whether you will ever have this opportunity again, and to contemplate upon the impermanence and the preciousness of the human birth. I think it's quite important for us to seize the opportunity and engage in practice while you're at such a precious place and engage with such a precious Sangha, rather than only get distracted by food. And people would say that, oh, this tastes really good, that tastes really good. Should we go for a coffee? Should we go for some snack? Well, if you were to seek for all of those worldly enjoyments over here, then I would consider that as the wrong view. Everyone's very different over here, and everyone has their tendencies of the flavors that they would enjoy as well. People from various regions may have different taste buds and may have different preference of food. But while you're here, it is the best to comply with the custom over here and enjoy the food that's provided for the whole Sangha. As this month is really very auspicious, every day, if you can chant even the aspiration of Samadabhadra, especially since this is the Dharma assembly of the cloud offering of Samadabhadra, so it would be the best to chant all of the liturgies and sadhanas. Since throughout this Dharma assembly we practice up on Kshitigarbha, then it is also called the Kshitigarbha Dharma assembly as well. Many of you already studied the Kshitigarbha Sutra, and some of you studied for many times, then you understand how meritorious it is to practice the sadhana of Kshitigarbha. So you can chant the names and mantra of Kshitigarbha, as well as the sadhana composed by Mipa Rinpoche on accumulation of merit and how we can accumulate the merits and wealth of the seven wealth of the noble ones. This Dharma assembly only lasts for 8 days in China mainland. In fact, there's this retreat that would last for 7 days, and that is considered as a very commonly accepted way of engage in practice. And over here, we have 7 and 8 days of practice over here as well. The Sangha over here, in fact, they're going to have exams very soon. The upcoming exams, though very important, it is quite important, I have to say, to engage in the practice as well. Engage in or participate and prepare for exams is very important, but other than those, I think it is also quite important to practice diligently practice very diligently in the Dharma assembly. On one hand, we are still closed in Larangar. The Larangar is not open to tourists, but I'm not sure how all of you appeared over here. Maybe you appeared and manifested from the space or sprouted from the ground. I'm not sure how you made it to Larangar. I'm not sure how all of a sudden all of you appeared. But since you are already here, then it would be the best for you to engage in the virtuous activity of practicing in the Dharma assembly. I will give you a present that is giving you the oral transmission of 37 practices of Bodhisattva. So that's my present to all of you. For all of you who manifested through flying over into the Larangar and sprouted from the ground and various miraculous powers, after listening to the teachings and oral transmissions, you may not have to fly back anymore. And it's hard to say how you're going to travel about and what's going to happen after. Another thing to address to the managers over here, the supervisors, I think it would be the best for you to pay attention to providing the essential such as food and essential services. And in terms of the place where the practitioners could engage in the practice, then you can use the radio that is provided over here, and you can also go to the, for example, females can go to the Jomo's shrine hall, and the males can go to the Lama's shrine hall to engage in practice of the Tibetan practitioners' shrine hall as well as the Chinese. So you can go to the various shrine halls and engage in the Dharma assembly. As long as you have a supreme aspiration, then wherever you engage in practice would create great amount of virtue, because it would be not a good idea to gather around all together. That would be difficult. That would create difficulties and maybe adversities. So let's not to make ourselves too vulnerable by gathering together in masses. In terms of Khenpos and Khenmos, I heard that they're very good at giving talks in meetings, and they're very good at paying lip service. But on the other hand, it's very difficult for them to actually participate and actually engage in those activities by themselves to help the others. So I encourage those Khenpos and Khenmos Khenpos to actually do things instead of only talk about it. Especially during this period of time where we have many people from outside and visiting and participate in Dharma assembly, I encourage all the Khenpos and Khenpos and the managing team to actually engage in each of the Dharma assembly and look at what need to be done. People may feel that, oh, it's too early, 7 o'clock, I have to go to Shrine Hall. But it's not early at all. There are the supervisors who only would show up after 8 or after 9, but by that time, we've already engaged in Dharma assembly and chanted for 2 hours, and that's probably too late to regulate the practitioners over here. So it's essential for you to actually go there and participate in management. We have, in fact, the world is still under the influence of the epidemic, so it's good not to gather in large groups. But on the other hand, we're only here to engage in Dharma assembly. You don't have to get too terrified about being questioned on the way. You're not engaging in any unlawful activities such as stealing and so on. You're only here to visit and to participate in a Dharma assembly. So in the next 7 or 8 days, I encourage you to diligently practice. Other than that, I don't have any other announcements. And later, during our post-class presentation, I think since we are probably quite crowded, we will be quite crowded after class, so why don't we just ask some of the lay practitioners this time to make oral presentations after class instead of the other practitioners over here. Maybe we can ask for some Dharma teachers to give oral presentations after class as well. Because I'm a little bit afraid if I were to ask people to separate into small groups after class and give oral presentations, it would be too crowded and people would follow me around. So the format that we're going to hold the after-class presentation would be a little bit different than the usual. Now, the oral transmission first. The unsurpassed, profound, and wonderful Dharma is difficult to encounter in billions of eons, and now see it here, receive it, and uphold it. I vow to fathom the Tathagata's true meaning.
Alambo Jinda Wus no Rotu the Sanke and Java Tarkun Vermit Debatan Bimgo Lugdam Chig Jam Jan Dum Jam Toman Mebatan Shigran Yons Tabirko Wuchi Jirkura Tantan Jumba Jimit Tonja Tan Jamba Ritag Yerpo Ja Tsemno Jibju Nyamba Tan Raptag Tsem Tag Zanwa Tan Namtag Tsemnyam Nietan no Cheva Ramchuk Garva Neta Jag Ram Tamed Samme Pa Rupcho Vayim Chognya Tan Ranshon Kala Panga Ye Jatang Tsamba Yanya Tan Shen Zan Upper Kimchuk Zanja Tan Yarmzi Chimid Zurpur Kardan Tan Sigdur Wardan Takjang Chapa Tan Pagba Serkim Donja Semchanum Chog Warp Lag Chan Jamjang Reje Ne Ki Tienda Yepchuk Kirwa Tan Wacha Jimid Renchin Tontang Jin Nyachur Zobur Jonshang Kirkuranja Jenko Gundo Zambo, Jimmy Zhangzhong, Huimit Zhangzhong, Qie, Jimmy the Way, Tobingam Chakbi, Go, Sam Cabra, Simchi Zani, Bondotok Tombe, Momam Sanda, Song, Cherter Jimmy the Da Kai, Davi, Zu, Stonki, Cherhum, Sornum, Tongar, Dar, Division of Jitso, Division Jetri, Soki, Kavda, Zu, Zoxon, Jenko Nandam, Tongar, and Yere, Yondan Tricks, Savje, Bondotok Sosor, Gipchi, the Gorum, Division, Ranchin, Doi, Jim John, Shibra, Sha.
Many of you do not even have the text of Uttaratantra Shastra, right? Oh, you do? Okay, good. If you don't, that's okay. It's actually even better. Let us continue with our class on the Uttaratantra Shastra. Now we're currently on the third chapter that talks about the quality of the Buddha. And in the previous part where we talked about the 32 types of merit that is associated with the Dharmakaya, with the Kaya of the nature, and then the second aspect talks about the fruition of the qualities that is manifested in the Nirmanakaya. We've already covered the first 32 qualities. And now we're going to talk about the 32 qualities or 32 marks of the Buddha's manifestation of the Buddha's Nirmanakaya. According to various sutras and shastras, there are different teachings about the 32 marks of the Buddha. In terms of the number, it is usually 32, but the causes and the fruition, or how the causes would lead to the fruition of the particular marks are rather a little bit different. Just a little bit different. According to Rakuta Sutra, there's one particular chapter from it, and it's the Jewel Cloud chapter, and it also talks about the causes and fruition of the 32 marks. According to the Yogacara Shastra, it talks about the 32 marks as well. And then the adornment of the 100 Merit Sutra talks about this as well. Another one is Sutra of Great Liberation that we just studied a few days ago. We studied the 32 marks of the Buddha. A few years ago, we also studied in the realization of a clear light of realization, we studied this as well. So the majority of it is very similar, but each of the, for example, the name and the causes can be a little bit different. Even in the dictionary of Buddhism, some of those explanations and the translations are a bit different too. However, as a Buddhist practitioner, we should not differentiate. We should not differentiate by saying that, oh, this one is the most correct and the other ones are not. As the various sutras and shastras, in fact, there are different meanings and the significance of the way that it describes the 32 marks. So whenever you look at the different sutras and shastras, and whenever you see that there are different ways of describing it, as practitioners, we should not say that this is wrong and that is right, like the worldly scholars would do. We shouldn't do that at all. People may hold various different opinions, and people may have different explanations based on different evidence. So we shouldn't differentiate it with our dualistic mind. I encourage all of you sitting here, do not turn on your phone, and it's the best to turn it off right now. Otherwise, it could distract the others, especially with the noises coming from your phone. Anyhow, when I was talking about the differences between different texts, it is mainly because of the different sutras and shastras. But out of all the descriptions, in fact, all the 32 talks about the beautiful or the dignified manifestation or the forms and appearances. Some of you, after studying it, you may feel that, well, why is it beautiful? It doesn't feel beautiful at all. According to some shastras, it says that the description is mainly described in this way to the preference and aesthetic of the then Indians. Just like how the Asians have their sense of what is beautiful, and the Africans have their sense of what is beautiful. So the aesthetics are very different among different people. And over here, the 32 marks are described in such a way, are considered as are the different marks or the different signs of beauty according to the ancient India. So let it be the ones that's recorded in Mahaprajna Paramita Shastra or the other sutras and shastras, and the various different explanations and different records of the 32 marks. In fact, all of those are based on the aesthetic of Indians.
还有呢，这个专轮王的这些相好的话，那就是也有，就是比如说金专轮王、银专轮王。
The different Chakravartins, the universal monarchs, they have different manifestations that's similar to the Buddha. However, their appearances are not as perfect as the Buddha. So we've also studied it from the ornament of Mahayana Uttaratantra Shastra too. Anyhow, I'm not going to elaborate too much. I think all of you are already very familiar with the 32 marks. So let me continue with the teachings, and each of those included those causes and the fruition of the quality of the Buddha. So first one, it says that his perfectly even souls are marked with his perfectly even souls. That's the first one. It is because the Buddha had followed the path of training and have kept his vows in the most sincere and perfect manner. The Buddha did not change his vows and did not waver his mind frivolously. And because of that, the sole of the feet, the bottom of his feet are perfectly even, and the top and the bottom of his feet are just like the belly of a tortoise that is very fully rounded. You may not feel that the shape of the shell of the tortoise is beautiful, but that's what is considered as beautiful back then in ancient India. And then the second says that his souls are marked with the wheels because the Buddha practiced generosity, and he has given to the sentient beings during the causal stage. Therefore, his soul is has a thousand spoked wheel. Whenever we have the opportunity, I would like to show you a picture of the thousand-poked wheel on the bottom of the Buddha's feet. There's this one particular picture, and there's this one footprint of the Buddha that is kept in India, and there's a picture that I can show you later. In fact, when Pontsuk Rinpoche and all of us traveled to India, we saw that. According to Vinaya Sutra, there's a chapter on eradicating the solidity of body, where it talked about the king at the time when Devadatta wanted to compete for the throne with the Buddha. Devadatta wanted to become the king, but after seeing the soul of the Buddha that has a 1,000-spoked wheel over there, and such kind of pattern on the soul of the Buddha is not like a tattoo, not like a carved pattern at all. However, Devadatta didn't have that, therefore the king wanted to have the Buddha as the heir for the throne, for his throne. Devadatta then went and he then sought for a tattoo artist back then and wanted to tattoo this 1,000-spoke wheel on the bottom of the wheel, on the bottom of his soul, with the 1,000-spoke wheel. However, the tattoo artist didn't want to do it because he didn't want to be punished for such a kind of fraudulent activity. Therefore, he asked Devadatta to sit inside the house and only show his feet so that the tattoo artist could tattoo it on him. But at that time, as you know, there's no aesthetic. So the whole procedure was really painful, and Devadatta was screaming. And then the Buddha later on heard about this story as well, especially when everyone heard about the crying and the screaming of Devadatta, and then people felt it was rather quite funny that he would go that far. The third sign, the third mark, is that his feet are broad and his ankles are not visible. The cause behind it is because since he genuinely adopted virtuous Dharma and did not disparage any sentient beings, when it comes to the heel, it is also included in the 80 signs of the Buddha as well. But over here, it mainly talks about the heel, and in the 80 signs, it talks about the ankle as well as the inner ankle of the foot, of his feet. And then the next one says that because the Buddha pays respect towards the parents as well as the teachers, therefore the fruition of such is that his fingers and toes are long, and the digits of his hands and feet So the digits and his fingers of toe and his toes are long. So nowadays we also share the similar sense of what is beautiful. We think that if the fingers and toes are slender and long, the digits are long, it's considered as beautiful. Then the next one says that his hands and feet are entwined with a web. The reason of such is because he did not sow any discourse to the others. He did not divide the following of the others by creating disharmony. He rather benefited sentient beings through the four magnetizing activities. Therefore, between the hands and feet of the Buddha, between the digits of his fingers and feet, there are webs of light. They're not the webs that we think of, rather they're the webs of light. He can still wear all kinds of ornaments. However, it's the golden web or the web that's made of light is not going to create any obstruction to the movements or to the movements of the hand. It is not anything solid. This web is not solid. It's rather made of webs of light, nothing substantial in that sense. And then the sixth one, because he had been freely giving all kinds of food and clothing during the causal stage, and he had given all kinds of clothing, hats and shoes to the other beings. For such reason, his skin is soft and supple. It's very firm and really smooth. Master Haitao from Taiwan, he usually would say that, well, practice generosity because that would lead to good appearance, that would lead to the suppleness of the skin. That's the fruition of practicing such generosity. So you should practice in such a way. People with good skin, it shows that you've practiced generosity. Maybe from your previous life, or maybe if you're practicing great generosity in this lifetime, then next life you will have good skin. There are the ones without patience. They would go to different parlors and spas and get some skin treatment, but the fruition of practicing generosity is perfect skin. And then the seventh is that having given a great number of things, such as delicious food and drink, 7 parts of his body, his palms, soles, shoulders, and the back of the neck are elevated. All of those 7 places are elevated and well-rounded. People with good virtue and good merits, in fact, we can see that their bodies would manifest such forms of merits. For example, we would see someone and we would look at the form of them and we can recognize that this person has definitely accumulated lots of merit because their appearance looks quite dignified. From the various aspects, even as ordinary beings, we can observe whether this person accumulated merit, because if, for example, for a person with great merits, we can see that they're very different than the others. So that's the 7th aspect of the 32 marks. And then the 8th one says that his calves resemble those of an antelope.
下面是这样的，他意思是就是退的意思，就是那么就是佛陀呢，因为先前的时候呢，就是经常。
And the reason of such mark is because he has cultivated and preserved the teaching of the Dharma.
接触这个佛法的原因呢，就是他的这个
As he had received the teachings of the Dharma, then the fruition of such meritorious action is that his calves resemble those of an antelope, that is very beautiful, delicate magnificence, and yet well-rounded and firm. The size and the shape all looks well-rounded and firm and magnificent. So that's the 8th mark. And the 9th mark is that his sacred parts are concealed in a recess, as are those of an elephant or a bull. And such reason is because he has guarded the secrets from evil forces. And he has abandoned defiled conducts. Another cause that is usually talked about for such affirmation is because he had concealed the faults of the others. Therefore, his sacred parts are concealed in a sheath, just like those of a stallion or elephant or a bull. Those are the 9 marks out of the 32. And then the 10th one says that since he did not kill and practice only virtue, his torso is mighty as that of a lion. His torso is of great magnificence, like a lion. And then the 11th, as the Buddha had practiced all kinds of virtue, which is similar to the previous one, practicing virtue, and for that reason, the hollow between his clavicles is well filled and well rounded. The kind of really the kind of people with rather slender build, their clavicles definitely would have hollows. But on the Buddha's form, on the Buddha's body, his clavicles is well filled. And another explanation says it's not only the clavicles, but also under his arms there is no hollows either. Those are not included in the Tibetan version of a translation, rather more of the Chinese translations. But over here, according to this particular text, it says that his clavicles are well filled. The 12th one is that the curve of his shoulders is perfectly round and beautiful. That is because he has taken all fear from his fellow beings and from all sentient beings and made them fearless. It is considered as a generosity of bestowing fearlessness. People nowadays, I think, they suffer from great fear. They suffer from great insecurity. And if we were to help them by telling them, oh, don't worry, you don't have to be afraid, people out of concern for their physical health, for their livelihood, and so on and so forth, they would generate all kinds of fear. But if you were to be able to help them, if you were be able to tell them, oh, don't worry, and it would be fine, and so on. With this kind of gentle words, it is considered also as generosity of bestowing fearlessness. There are some practitioners, especially lay practitioners, have lots of fear. They would worry about their financial situation, worry about their relationship, worry about their family, worry about their career, and worry about their health. In fact, lots of those worries are unfounded, and they are only generated from your mind. People nowadays have all kinds of fear and worries, and out of those fear and worries, they lose their courage to stay in this world, to do whatever they have to do. And then at that point, as practitioners who do not have much fear in your heart, I think it would be very good for you to help them, consoling them with your speech, or by giving them some books that would potentially help them. And that is considered as generosity of bestowing fearlessness too. The 13th, his hands and arms are beautiful, being soft to the touch, smoothly rounded and even shaped. Also, his arms are long, reaching his knees when unbent. Those are really because of the Buddha's effort of supporting the others and helping the others and being good friends to the others, to the sentient beings. Just like people nowadays, they are the ones who are very willing to help the others whenever they see situations that they can provide any support, they would be very happy to do so. So the fruition of such kind of activity, such kind of beneficial activity would lead to the form of a physical body, that his hands and arms are beautiful, round, soft to touch, smooth, and the hands are long, arms are long, reaching to the knees without being bent. The Buddha's form looks very different and very unique. For ordinary beings, if you don't bend over, then it's not possible for you to touch your knees while standing straight. But the Buddha's form looks very different. There are many sculptures and statues that showed such feature of the Buddha. His arm can reach his knees without bending. And then the 14th is that the Buddha has an immaculate body that is purified from any flaws and is enfolded in the mandala of an aureole of light. That is because he practiced the 10 virtues without ever containing himself throughout the causal stage. The Buddha, according to various records, says that each of the Buddha and the Buddhas carry this aureole of light. That's the 14th. And the 15th says that his neck is beautiful and pure, that is in a shape or in the shape like a conch that carries 3 folds. And the reason of accomplishing such mark is because the Buddha had given medicine and so forth to the sick, and that led to the 3 folds of folds that looks like a conch. So it is of great purity. Especially if you can look at the statue of the Buddha, there are the 3 folds under the neck or on the neck. Different sutras and shastras describe this kind of 3 folds in different wordings, but according to Uttaratantra Shastra, it is described in such a way. As I said earlier, not every one of the sutras and shastras should be the same. However, we do need to understand each of the description under its context. That's the 15th, and let's look at the 16th. His cheeks are like those of a king of all animals, that is a lion. The reason behind is because he had abandoned frivolous words and caused other beings to connect with the practice of the virtue. His cheek is fully rounded, but not extruding. It looks very beautiful and magnificent on a lion. Nowadays, people really like to perform all kinds of plastic surgery on the face so that their face and their shape may look beautiful. But the Buddha didn't have to go through any of that, and his cheeks already looks magnificent, just like how the lion looks. And then the 17th talks about the teeth. His 40 teeth are of equal number in both of his jaws, there being 20 in each. That is because the Buddha treated each of the sentient beings with great equanimity to his son and to Devadatta. So whomsoever those beings are, he treated them with great sense of equanimity. People nowadays have only about 30 teeth, and there are people who only have one tooth left. And we can see their tongues moving about in their mouth when they talk. My mother, in his senior days, she didn't have any tooth left, and I only saw her tongue moving about whenever she talks. And when the children were young, throughout the stage of changing their sets of teeth, there are also a period of time that they would care about the loss of their teeth. But look at the teeth of people nowadays. There are the ones who have the teeth that's not even, and that's not set in a aligned way. Some of the teeth would pop up, and some of them would go other ways. But the surgeries nowadays, there are lots of the dental surgeries could set the teeth problem very easily. Anyhow, the 18th says that his teeth are supremely pure and the most beautiful set, not showing any gaps, and that is because he has averted any discordance, and since he has always uttered truthful words. For such reason, his teeth are really pure and without any gaps. People nowadays, we can see that there are the ones whom have large gaps in between their teeth. I remember the Khenpo who went to the dentist from Dr. Yuanpu, and the doctor fixed the teeth of that Khenpo and filled the gap. And once I was talking to the Khenpo outside, I was with the Khenpo outside, and someone inquired about him, saying, I know that you have a dentist in the monastery. And apparently that doctor is very good at filling the gaps. So can we please hire that dentist to fill the gap of a person I saw on TV, because his teeth doesn't look very good with a large gap. And then after we inquired who that person was, apparently was a president. Anyhow, there are people without beautiful set of teeth, but the Buddha's teeth are supremely pure and beautiful, without gaps. Also, his teeth are immaculate, free from any flaws. For example, some teeth long, some teeth short. They're of similar length, aligned, and they're aligned in even rows as well. That is because of having given pleasant riches to the others. He had been the wish-fulfilling jewel to the others. That is the reason behind such kind of manifestation form. And then the back of his teeth, the largest teeth,
80岁号当中也是出现几个，然后我也就对了这个好几个藏文，但是有些把它翻译成这个四亚，就是结拜，有些是二亚结拜。
The one that is described over here, it says that his eye teeth are very sharp. Some of the translation, after comparing to certain sutras and shastras, it shows that the largest and the last teeth at the back, they're very sharp and of supreme and excellent, because he guarded his three gates of actions, the three gates referring to body, speech, and mind, and he honored, respected his fellow beings. The 21st is that because the Buddha have been speaking only the truthful words and speaking in a gentleful manner, so his tongue is long and his tongue can spread over 3,000-fold world. Therefore, it shows that if you have a long tongue, that's a very good form. That's the 21st. And then 22nd mark is that since the Buddha had tended the has tended delicious food, tasty food, and so on, his sense of taste is supreme. He can taste all kinds of fragrance and tasty. And tasty food. Even if the Buddha, for example, if you remember that he ate some rotten rye from the horse feed, the taste that was perceived by the Buddha was still of the great supreme. The 23rd is that his speech is amiable, like the call of Kalavinka bird or the melody of a Brahma. That is because he only used the pure and gentle words to help all the other beings. Therefore, the result of such is to speak of the language of helpfulness and is amiable, just like the call of a Kalavinka bird. Usually, when we think of the taste and when we think of the sound, we don't consider them as marks. But over here, it is also a manifestation in terms of the physical body. So it is now the 23rd. And then the 24th is that his eyes are pure and are very much clear. For example, the white part, the white parts looks very pure and white, and then the pupil parts also looks really clear. That is because he had looked upon all beings with loving kindness. And then the 25th shows that his eyelashes are dense and shiny, as those of an ox, king of an ox. It is because his gaze was unmoved and free from anger and scorn. that led to such fruition of having long eyelashes. I believe lots of women would really want to have that mark, isn't it? If you can have long eyelashes, that would be really wonderful. And that really comes from the unmoving aspiration of practicing the virtue and not to be carried away by anger. I heard there are all kinds of procedures that you can uptake to create beautiful eyes. For example, double eyelids. In a very short period of time, you can go through those quick plastic surgery and only suffer from the swelling for a very short period of time, and after that you will be able to have double eyelids. In the past, it was said that people who have plastic surgery are considered as a very small number and are very different and unusual. However, nowadays it seems that people would consider the ones who had never go through any plastic surgery as unique. At the beginning, I remember a few years ago, people felt that dyeing hair and so on are really frivolous, and there's no profound meaning behind those actions. But nowadays, I feel that, well, for the lay practitioners, if they want to do it, that's fine. I think at the beginning of my path, I felt I was quite narrow-minded. I feel that everything was inappropriate. Nowadays, I see people with red hair, yellow hair. I feel that's fine. That's the preference of the beings. Even if people go through all kinds of plastic surgery, I can easily accept them. People with money, at the beginning, they want to, for example, take certain injections on the face and certain plastic surgery. But all of those surgeries takes maintenance, and if you were to run out of money, you won't be able to maintain those results anymore. Other than that, I do consider about your health as well, but I don't have any judging view towards those people who engage in those. However, I encourage all of you to beautify yourself to a sensible amount, not to overtake the time that you can engage in your study and contemplation of the Dharma, which is really the supreme goal of this life. Anyhow, that is from. I was thinking about that from thinking about the eyelashes. And then the 26th is that the Buddha possessed the stainless white urna hair. And the reason behind is having praised all supreme beings. According to the Ikotara Agama Sutra, it also says that if you were to praise the ones that do not deserve the praise and not praising the ones that deserve the praise, that is also considered as faults. So deserving the praise or not really depend on the wisdom of the one who's paying the praises and respect to the others. The urna hair also twirls towards the right and embellishes his face in between the two eyebrows. The Indians also put a red dot in between their eyebrows too. The young people nowadays, with their makeup, they also would wear all kinds of embellishments on their face. But those will be gone once you wash your face. However, the urna hair that embellishes the face of the Buddha would not be washed off. It is not temporary. Then the Buddha also has the Ushnisha. Such sign comes from revering the gurus or the teachers, great masters. For such reason, for that he has respectfully carried the guru on the crown of his head, he has the Ushnisha on the top of his head. And the 28th talks about the Buddha's skin is pure and delicate, and the color of such is of the color of gold. The reason of obtaining such kind of mark is because his mind seek for the Dharma, and he also bestowed all kinds of pleasant beddings to the other beings. He practiced such generosity. Devadatta, upon seeing the Buddha's skin is the same as the color of gold, he went to the goldsmith and wanted to paint his skin as gold as well. The goldsmith said that, well, I can, but it's going to be burning hot. And then Devadatta agreed. So the goldsmith covered the skin of Devadatta with hot burning oil. People nowadays, after having this inspiration of wanting to gain beautiful appearance, they don't mind such kind of suffering and such kind of pain. They don't mind they don't mind going through various kinds of surgeries of taking out part of the flesh or putting in various injections. So Devadatta at that time agreed, and the goldsmith brushed him with hot oil on his skin. Devadatta was screaming again, but even after the gold were painted on top of his skin, he still didn't look as good as the Buddha. So he had to take off that the gold after. The 29th is that the hairs on the Buddha's body are extremely fine and soft, and each grows from one pore and curls to the right upwards towards the crown of his body. The reason behind is because he had eradicated all kinds of hustle and bustle and increased the virtue and genuinely adopted all the teachings from his teachers and from the teachings that received from his teachers. So for that reason, the hairs of the Buddha, each of them are very fine and gentle and really beautiful. Each of them torso upright. The 30th talks about his hair is immaculate and resembles in the color of a deep blue gem, of a sapphire. Because the Buddha had eradicated the violent actions such as striking others with a weapon. Some of the sutras or shastras, it talks about how the Buddha's hair is the same color as a ruby. Or over here, this one talks about how the Buddha's hair is of the color of a sapphire or of a deep blue gem. The 31st talks about how the Buddha's body is upright and firm, just like a perfect Nyagroda tree. It is because the Buddha had practiced the equanimity, the samadhi of equanimity. Nyagroda tree. Why Nyagroda tree? Because this particular tree is of the same length from its root to its top. Therefore, the Buddha's samadhi of equanimity lead to such kind of sign that the physical stature is his physical stature is well proportioned, just like the Nyagroda tree. And then the 32nd says that because of because of mending and building all kinds of Buddha statue and stubas, also consoling the fearful sentient beings, the Buddha had gained such unbreakable body, possessing by the strength of Narayana. His body is sturdy like the Vajra, and his body is well proportioned, and his body is firm and unbreakable, just like the strength of Narayana. These are the 32 inconceivable marks of the Buddha. Such kind of 32 marks is inconceivable and unfathomable for the sentient beings. And these are the wondrous marks of the Buddha. And then let's look at the examples given to the 32 marks as a summary. Just as in autumn, the form of the moon is seen in a cloudless sky, and in the deep blue water of a lake, the form of all-embracing is seen by the victor's heirs in the perfect Buddha mandala and in the world. The full autumn moon that appears in the cloudless sky is really beautiful. In Tibetan poetry, in fact, we often talk about in autumn the cloudless sky or the undefiled lake. All of those kinds of examples and similes would be given, because autumn is really a beautiful season that is undefiled, like compared to the other seasons. The 3 months, we only have 3 months in summer, and today ends the second month of the 3 months of summer. We only have 1 month of summer, and then we will enter into the season of autumn. So when autumn comes, I suggest you to look up into the sky. In autumn, look at the moon, look at the clear lake, clear water, and you will be able to see how beautiful they are. So over here it says that the clear blue water in the lake in autumn, and all the followers or the bodhisattvas of the 10 bhumis, as well as the other disciples, all the way from the 1st to the 10th bhumi of bodhisattvas, especially the Nirmanakaya over here can be seen by the bodhisattvas all the way from 1st to 10th bhumi. Master Rendava once said that such kind of beautiful marks of the Nirmanakaya of the Buddha can be only perceived by the bodhisattvas from the 1st bhumi and above. The mundane beings, however, can only perceive the Buddha's form just like how the moon is reflected in the clear water, especially the beings with auspicious connection, auspicious karma. That's how they can see the Buddha's Nirmanakaya in the world, in the mandala of the world, but the bodhisattvas can see the Nirmanakaya of the Buddha in the perfect mandala.
珍宝经，这个珍宝经可能盖为暴力经，咱们当中都是没有女子的姓，但是我看到这个其他暴力经可能好一点，就是。
The 64 qualities, each combined with its.
那个男女的女，暴女经就了知四次第啊。
with this cause should be known in their order to follow Ratnadarika Sutra. The 10 powers for fearlessness, 18 unmixed features, 32 marks. All of those together, the 32 that is associated with the Dharmakaya and the 32 associated with the Nirmanakaya, all of the 64 qualities of freedom and complete maturation, which is to say, again, the 10 powers for fearlessness, 18 unmixed features, 32 pure marks, each combined with its individual essence and cause, have followed the source of explanation in order as given above. They should be known to be explained following the words of the sutra called the oral instruction of the great vehicle requested by Maiden Rinchen. So that is the Ratnadarika Sutra. In fact, this is not only described in this particular Dharmadarika Sutra, but it's recorded in the Mahayana Sutra, especially Mahayana Sutra is very similar to the one that's described over here and described in the Ratnadarika Sutra. But the other sutras, for example, the Upasaka's Sutra, the Bodhisattva's 3 Vows Sutras, as well as the Mahaparinirvana Sutras, and so on and so forth, those do carry some differences. Today, before the actual turning of the wheel month, and tomorrow especially commemorates the day that the Buddha turned the Dharma wheel, we've finished this part of the teaching. This is very auspicious. Everyone seek for beautiful appearance and to seek for the most wonderful goal. And the 32 marks over here that's described over here are in accordance to the aesthetic of the ancient Indians. All of us here, we should also seek for such kind of outcome, such kind of form, such kind of beautiful fruition. Let it be if you want the beautiful teeth or otherwise. We try our best to accumulate the auspicious causes to that which lead to the fruition of all those beautiful marks. Now we have encountered the supreme Mahayana teaching, and we have accumulated a wonderful merit to see the beautiful body and the marks of the Buddha. This is really wonderful. According to Avatamsaka Sutra, it says that the Buddha's body is innumerable. However, the manifestation of the Buddha in front of the sentient beings is limited. There is a number, to appear in front of various sentient beings based on people's different karmic connections. Over here, we need to understand how it is described. At the same time, we need to understand the profound causes that lead to such marks and such manifestations. Do not only be narrow-minded and consider one thing as true and the others as all false. In this way, you'll be very narrow-minded and not be able to get close to what is the profound truth. Don't set your mind to only one truth or one right answer, because once you set your mind on one right answer, then naturally people would tend to feel that the other descriptions would be false. Rather, we should study all of those teachings and be open-minded, engage in such kind of study that would deepen your faith. And deep faith would lead to accomplishment, spiritual accomplishment, not only your personal spiritual accomplishment. All of such kind of study would be very beneficial when it comes to your beneficial activities to the sentient beings too. So let's stop here today. I'll give you the oral transmission of 37 stanzas of Bodhisattva.
Dazin gorum sole jari shira nyanam zana yerame bana nyanzung gomba jetri lana ninji choklando chikchirtara yo jai chola jirtan mer taram bara landur jebikta mungmana jan pair bonga jetri lana yarangan pambi nyumoram jinra nama mebe kibzhung kime rikba dama chola nga shi jan wamba tumbar jetri lana yarang rupam zashi susur babe driba norzi shirta li jim zhongkang namshim zhomba wara tsendab lobdan jetri lana kanda rona tuzum penjira tuzum gawa sha nyam jere shamda nyaji Mebir Jirshebe Chongun Ponga Jetri Long Lang Gajik Tana Nibazan Jirsi Yonda Yarngun Latan Penjiro Shanin Dambarang Lile Yang Chipran Jetri Long Lang Rangang Korozona Jamba Injik Lai Sisi Kyobarne Tibsir Kanglap Jam Naman Lokum Shamra Jetri Long Lang Shandu Zokung Ansung Tungun Dubeli Jimjebe Tubazon Tibsir Shula Abyan Dubeli Naman Jetri Long Chosum Devazar Tizerbajan Sumjik Chipachu Naman Jetari Komun Jotonda Nira Jetri Long Lang Tome Dini Dana Zaya Manum Dana Devishirim Thai Simchin Drashi Simchin Jetri Longland, Dungur Mali Dodin Dolation of Sanjam Zen, Rotiger Dodajanji, Dungur, Dondo Jetri Longland, Sadando Chongo Daka Tamsin Chokum Chokum Jina, Lidan Longe Tizonganum, Telam, Jetri Longland, Dala Niba Jones, Major the Condo of Congo, Jena, Najawanga Dala Lember Jetri Longland, Ganju Dalaman, Nazobaton, Jabra Jena, Jambazan Jelana, Yon Jetri Longland. Roman di bawai sengkaji kamsanem jejang tengah mana kewisi tela kewisi jindi ji kiban dabar tela kewisi desi ji kiban dabar jetri loglen takwa jang cibir jam dala jang tabar jetna na kita biwala mabjan da labar suar jetri loglen randam Mamba Mambi Jewa Ingar Jagon Nito Shena, Lama Janda Kibi Dani the Sholim Bar Jetri Longland, so Ponja Takdame Sapchat. Natang Dun Jip Tap Yang Laran Drogan do the Lala Shimba Meber Jetri Long, Number Chang Roman Nam to win, Nunja Top Stupid Quarter, Yambomas in the Combat Meber Jetri. Rangazetang Tawamata Natural Draw to Young Bero and Jero Devshan Shamdan Jamagon in the Jetri and Dobe on the land Sedan Shadow. Kangla Jinjak Jibum Namchalat More Jetri Long Line, certain Namanda Torangas and Samuel Donny Trupin Tadon Tinishina Zomana, Lamashi Jetri Long Yitago, Yerdom Trabana, teaching Zipper now, Denver Martaja, more Jetri Long, not so much was than Cherishing as Kishir Mamta Kendam Travis, Jetri Long and Shan Dobili, Yantongo, Shurung Bonana, Mojoko, Tejaland, Narman, Jamaton, Jetri Long, remember on the Madrid. Zanton Tobacco, Monetage to be in the Bame by Jetri Long, given Ocean to Jetri, and Dojam Jeran Shelter. The Shirkan Legend by Zobacumba, Jetri Long, Randon Bazi, Niara, Angola, Measure, Lord Somton, and Rocanton, the Dion, and Johnny Gibson to Jetri Long, and after them. New moon number of Shishi and Osimilian to the something, Gomber Jetri Long, and Sherman about General Tuber many bet have done dungeon course of Morto, Gomber Jetri Long, Rangaton, Chubasi, Jetri, in the Rangatora, Tony Bomber Jetri Long. nyomo wong ge che jang da ni ba la na da ni nyam je to ba che la ji bi gang zi ge ni ba ma ma je che lo ne ni ge ro ge pan zu to ji jang to dong gu sha nyam je za shi jim da jang da jang na la che bo mo je che lo ne su mu zu ge jang sim ji je jang je je ji shu zu nyam je de zhen ji to mo zu zu mo je che lo ne nyomo gom na nim bo lo ge cha shi ji nim bo zo zo ne cha zo nyomo da bo ji ma da ma je she ba je che lam da na gang de shu lam je ji jang go sim jang ne ge jang da gang Jindu Chanda Shijan Tabayi Zhandun Chibar Jechi Longlen Tirtu Tsumbi Chibu Kiwa Nam Tayin Ro Dungur Sarji Chirun Korosum Nambar Tabi Shirib Ji Chan Churkun War Jechi Longla Yim Dor Judan Chunan Sumbi Tu Tabi Nam Jiksungur Ji Zongli Jechi Long Nye Jechi Long Jechi Nam Ji Longlen Samche Dona Jechi Long Lubda Tondo Golo Choman Chirung Chung Kiba Tibi Tibchur Mamchi Jam Dodo Tambi Sonlap Timbi Shir Jechi Longlen Chirmin Lobrab Sam Gwanji Jechi Shubar Labchan Loma Danzhong Fong Fong Kayu Shir Gardam Mamchi Lasuni Bizo Tambi Nam Zubram Zartak Suru Television Given Rogan 도는 건 전주 샘적 주던 좀 달라 먹네 비šan적 좀건 대동 동물 쇼 집안다 영화전 라파미 동도 론다 릭버만 좀다 도매 기행 실전 부부도 여러와 개고 소놈의 단체 저바 돈나니 베잖아 바시 장결가 나지라는 저바 주범 손에 좋아 주